Hello everyone. Today I'll discuss ecological succession. But before going to succession discussion, its definition, process, and pattern, I want to recall the concept of evolution. What is evolution? It is technically defined as a gradual process in which something changes into a different and usually more complex or better form, right? It may be microevolution or macroevolution. What happens in microevolution? It shows changes in appearance of population and species over time. Means change in mean, model, phenotype, morphoration, etc. It occurs from one generation to next generation but within one population. Whereas macroevolution is a large scale phyletic change over geological time. It's the longest process. Phyletic change means evolutionary development, which takes a longer time. For an example, if we look backward about concept of heterology and development and homology and development, we know that there are many species who show similar structural and genetic features, but they serve no apparent function. Means those features have nothing to do. There is no role in those animals' life of those features. For an example, presence of pelvic bones in snakes and whales. What is its function? Nothing. And eyes in some cave fishes. It has no function. If look back to homology and development, so wing of a bird, forelimb of a bat have exactly the same bones. This is a very famous example. Both animals have same bones as the arm of a human, but the size, shape, and even internal structure of these bones are all adapted to play a different function, different role in the life of each animal species. If we look here, the structures like the wing of birds and the forelimbs of a bat are homogeneous in structures. So, the purpose of recalling the concept of evolution is that evolution of species is not a permanent process, but they keep on changing over a period of time. Succession, it has been defined as a gradual process of change in species composition, community structure, soil chemistry, and microclimatic characteristics. And it occurs cause of or following natural or human induced disturbances. In natural, we have windstorm, heavy rains, flood, tsunami, or say drought. Whereas human induced, cutting, logging, outbreak of pest insects, destruction of natural habitat, etc. And sometimes management purpose is also taking a place to create some disturbance, such as forest fire. It creates a disturbance and give opportunity for succession process. The concept of succession is not new. It was being observed when scientists, ecologists, or conservationists were studying community. And first time it was observed by King in 1685. It was George Buffon in 1742 who observed that community brings about changes which prepares way for the formation of another type of community. But till yet, the term succession was not announced, was not coined. This term was first coined by Hult in 1885 in Sweden while he was studying community. Later on, in America, it was studied more intensively by Cows in 1899, and eventually Clement in 1907 put forward various principles about succession process during his study of community of plants and animals or ecological community. When he was observing colonization by different plant species and animal species. And eventually, autumn 1917, he preferred to call this process as an ecosystem development rather than ecological succession while he was studying community. And autumn, this name is quite famous. We also have ecological book in our library written by Autumn. So this concept of succession was observed that time while people were studying community. Succession is what? As we have seen the definition of succession and we have recalled the concept of evolution, we can easily understand that this is pattern with process. Pattern is what? We can easily observe directly. We have a vegetation zonation in a community, and every zonation contains a different type of community of species. Every layer of the forest or vegetation or any ecosystem support a different kind of community. So there we have a species list, and these species have seasonal distribution of activity. According to seasons, they change their activity pattern. That's why whenever we are going to study ecology, we are considering the aspect of seasonal studies, seasonal ecological studies, and association of certain species, as this is a basic function of an ecosystem where species they interact to each other. They have associations. Process, it gives rise to the pattern. It can be understood well with the concept of food chain, a food web, or the process of an ecosystem, ecological balancing. For say we have herbivores in an ecosystem. Herbivores face competition within species. If increasing in numbers, if population is oversized, they have high risk of predation. They need nutrients availability, and they have to face different patterns of disturbances. And in this way, they cycle the energy flow. Right? Types of succession. First set of succession is primary and secondary succession. Primary succession starts from the primitive substratum where there is no living organisms and there was no evidence of life. The first group of organisms establishes there is called pioneers or primary community or primary colonizers. Whereas secondary succession process is more rapid in compared to the primary succession. It starts from the built up substratum where already a living matter or living organisms exist. If this state face any kind of disturbance, so this succession may disappear. This community here may disappear. Second set is of autogenic or allogenic succession. What happens in autogenic? If existing community is getting replaced or modified by its own environment because of some environmental reactions known as autogenic succession where other factors don't play any role. Allogenic succession is a process in which existing community gets replaced by external conditions, not by community organisms. It's known as allogenic succession. Third set is of autotrophic and heterotrophic succession. As these terms autotrophic and heterotrophic are self-explaining, so we can understand well the process of succession and its dominance of organisms. In autotrophic, it has early or continued dominance of green plants, autotrophs. It more likely begins in inorganic environment. And energy flow remains indefinite, which gradually increase organic matter contained in the environment. Heterotrophic succession, it shows early dominance of heterotrophs like bacteria, actinomycetes, fungi, and animals. It begins more likely in inorganic environment and experience continuous decline in energy content. So in autotrophic there is gradual increase in energy content and in heterotrophic there is continued decline in energy content. Here look likes that it is a small stage where few organisms, few individuals of plants and animals making this communities can begin because of many causes. It is in an ecological succession, a process of ecological succession. If we recall Clement in 1916, he published a descriptive theory of succession and advanced it as a general ecological concept. His theory of succession had been thought a powerful influence on ecological thought. His theory has been even accepted as a classical ecological theory. According to him, the stages have been named as nudation, where a community develops or establishes on a bare site or area without any form of life. It may happen because of several reasons like topographic disturbance, climatic catastrophe, and human induced, and we all know about these three kind of disturbances. Topographic may contain soil erosion, water, wind, landslide, sand deposition, and volcanic activity, etc. Climatic catastrophe may be glaciers, drought, windstorm, and biotic disturbance. Most probably human induced. It happens. Urbanization, development, etc. Next stage is invasion. It is a successful establishment of a species in a bare area. The species reaches to this site from elsewhere either through migration, excesses, or aggregation. Migration refers to arrival of species or propagues from other areas. Excesses involves establishment and initial growth of vegetation, and aggregation involves species increase in number and comes close to each other. Next is coaction or competition. As vegetation becomes well established, it grows and spread. Various species begin to compete for space, food, light, and nutrients. These species affect each other's life in different ways. They have to fight for survival resources. In reaction, this is the most important stage of succession. Here, existing community modifies through the influence of living organisms. During this phase, autogenic change affect the habitat and one plant community replaces another community. Last stage is climax or stabilization. It's supposedly a stable climax community or a final stage of succession process. The climax community is a dense closed layer of vegetation or a forest or a community had a predictable composition. There is only one true community or stage in any given climatic region. And this climatic stage is the end point of all succession processes. So here I'll stop this lecture and it will be continued tomorrow. See you tomorrow.